And
Good man.
we have our Director of Finance, Josie Rock. You do have something this evening.
I
You have a
do have
presentation for us.
something.
Our mid-year financial update. Council has a hard copy of this presentation.
All right. So I'll try and be brief, as we've already, have a lengthy meeting. So what I'm going to be talking about is briefly about the December 31st, 2018 audit and a budget update as of June 30th of this year. And we'll start out with our friendly little auditor, who was back again this year.
That's not Tim.
That's what he looks like.
Is that Tim?
I don't know, not him.
Taller.
They, as usual, they started their audit in March, and after a few weeks of field work and emails back and forth, they completed their field work and went back to their office to develop the comprehensive annual financial report and also the filing for the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development. The CAFR, when complete, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report is CAFR, abbreviated. And when it's complete, we have to submit it by June 30th to the Government Finance Officers Association. And we've been doing this and receiving recognition for the past 26 years. Once our Finance Committee and Council reviews the report, it'll be on our website for the public to view. I'm going to just give you a few financial highlights, and I'll have a little bit of graphs throughout the presentation. So our fund balance in the general fund was $15,197,592, which is a total balance. Now the unassigned portion of that fund balance is $14,410,769, which is about 44% of the revenues that we bring in. The unassigned portion, but what that means is it's money that we're free to spend because we have other things that are either committed to other projects or assigned for something. But the 14.4 is really, I don't want to say discretionary spending, but that's really what it is. It's when, if we need something, that's what we would fall
Is it safe
back
to say
on.
that's our savings?
Yeah, exactly. Also, the municipality had $13.9 million of gross bond debt, and $14.4 million of net debt outstanding. That is a decrease of 2.735, or 16% from the previous year. We also, as part of our debt, have $839,000 of capital leases, most of which will expire within the next few years. Again, the majority of that, 79.4%, relates to fire trucks, which will not mature until 2024. That debt burden on the per capita debt burden, which is on each person, is $538. Our fund balance, our general fund balance increased by $20,736. which was significantly lower than the increase, the 2017 increase, which we had of 3.7 million. The drop is due in part to leveling of our tax collection audits and transfers for capital improvement purposes.
So we're not
Where's the money come from? And although that looks pretty, money does not come from trees.
You mean it does?
It is the one I
Tim's
found.
backyard.
It does look like Tim's backyard.
Okay, our analysis of the revenues, there's a little picture there. Our 2018 tax revenue, we had 31% comes from real estate tax, 27% from your earned income tax, and then your business privilege and mercantile tax are about 29%. So those are the major sources of income for the municipality. The others are, less than 10%.
Josie, what's the regional asset tax?
That's part of the sales tax revenue that comes from Allegheny County. And it gets distributed
Okay.
to the municipalities within Allegheny County. So this next slide, I just gave you a graphic representation of tax revenue collections for the past 3 years, from 16, 17, and 18. And as you can see, they're fairly level for each of those groupings. The first is real estate tax, then earned income, then your business tax, which is a combination of the mercantile and business privilege. You can see our real estate transfer bumped a little, but that's based upon home and commercial sales. Other revenues, I apologize, this looked better. The colors did, but, when I was preparing the slide, we have state and local shared revenues, which basically come from the state and county, of 1.6 million. License and permits generate about 1.4 million, and then the rest is just miscellaneous earnings that we have throughout the year. On the other revenues, we include general municipal pension state aid in the amount of $833,000. Always like to include our Marcellus Shale impact fee, which is $15,000. That's just an amount to help us with our maintaining our roads and so forth. The fire insurance tax distribution was $162,000, but that does get turned over. Once we get that check, we need to turn it over to the volunteer fire companies, which we do. Okay, this next little graph is the impact of the tax collector audits. That the red line at the top is the current, the bottom is the delinquent. So if you look at the red line, that's the current mercantile, and you can see as that's going up, the green is the delinquent mercantile, that's going down. So we've pretty much, with our mercantile anyway, have, done as much as we can. Now, the business privilege, as you can see, the purple and the blue are still both on the rise. So that maybe has another year or so that, I'm not really sure. But, all right. Next slide, we're going to talk about spending.
Linda written all over it.
Analysis of the expenditures, I just gave you a list. Now, the total general fund expenditures were 29 million. These numbers come from what we report to the Pennsylvania Department of Economic and Community Development. They do tie back to our financial statements and the CAFR. But as you can see, the biggest spending is there at the top with police at 431 per capita. Culture and recreation is next at 155 per capita. Then our debt service, that's just for this year, is 113 per capita. And then the rest are, just what it costs to run the government. And this is graphic form, and you can see everything's small, and then we go up for public safety, which it's an important thing to have. This next little table is I found interesting. I compared other municipalities with debt, revenue per capita, and expenditures per capita, and then our change, revenues less expenditures per capita. And we actually, what I used to compare is population. So we're looking at people that are municipalities that are within the 28,000, give or take a few. As you can see, we're doing actually pretty well with the public's money. Our debt per capita in this particular case is 627. I know I quoted a different amount earlier on, but it depends on, there's other minor things that this, I'm pretty sure is going to include those, the other liabilities that I said about compensated absences and everything, because I took this from the DCED website, so I didn't have as much control over that. So you can see Plum Borough, people may say, oh, wow, is that a mistake? Because they have 62 million in total debt outstanding. When I looked further into that, they are guaranteeing 43 million of debt that's owned by their municipal department, municipal authority. So they're a guarantor on that
Water, they're
43. So then, if you take that 43 off the 62, we're all right in line with the amount of debt, but that's
Have to take that.
blended expenditures.
What's that work out to be?
They're included in the 29.7 million, but you don't see them because they're spread throughout the departments. We had 1.2 million in municipal employee contributions, pension contributions. Police pension contributions were 2.4 million. Our other post-employment benefits were 1.3 million this year. So that's total pension and OPEB, basically for retirees, is 4.9 million, and that's about every year. All right, next we're going to talk about capital. It's one of our green trucks. Okay. I hope you can see that. Again, this one isn't showing up quite the way I expected it to, but our capital projects funds, audited revenues were $340,000 audit expenditures were $3.6 million. That left a deficit, well, actually, of $3.2 million, which we funded through transfers from the general fund, which brought it down to $1.6 million change in fund balance for the capital. Going forward for 2019, what we expect to see, if you look at the expenditures, we're looking at $2.7 million because our road construction, as you recall, we bumped that up from the $1 million that we usually put, do the transfer for. And so total road construction, we're expecting to be 1.9. Looking, when you take that further down, I will add we had a grant in 2018, which I think I know we were approved for a grant that we talked about last week, but I don't know if that'll be in this year or next year. But the bottom line is, if going the same way as we did last year in 2018, we're looking at a deficit of our capital projects funds of $1.3 million. And this is basically what we spent the $3.3 million on. 2.1 on road surfacing, radio communication equipment, $801,000, and some other miscellaneous traffic signals and public works truck and a street sweeper. All right, fund balance, there you go, savings. There's our little piggy bank. Mayor?
Happy little chappy.
Okay. As we've been saying, our fund balance is growing. We can control our operating expenditures somewhat, but we actually have no control over our capital outlay. We don't, roads in particular, you can't control those at all. So this next one's a little hard to see, but it's taking from 2013 to 2018. Our change in fund balance back in 2013 was a negative $1.4 million. So through working from 14 through 18, our fund balance was built up over that time. So, excuse me, okay. So I put a little graph in for that also, so you can see the 5-year trend. Way off to the right is 2014. If you recall, I mentioned about unassigned fund balance, which is what we can spend. That's the red. The total fund balance is the blue. So you see how it's continuing to grow. But with those kinds of expenditures we're going to be having, we might not continue that growth. All right, long-term debt. Again, we talked about earlier, our current plan is to reduce debt as much as we can, with the fund balance, especially in capital projects, being negative. Who knows? We're going to have to finance them some way. Hopefully we can get some grants. But this was what I was saying about the additional liabilities, $839 in capital leases and $911,000 in compensated absences. Well, those are vacation, sick time that employees accrue, and then when they retire or terminate employment, some of it, well, I'll let Joe talk about that at another time, but some of that will get paid. That 911 is an accounting number based upon it. If everything were to close up today, that's what we would owe. But that 911,000 will be paid out, reasonably over the next, whenever people retire. All right, and there's a picture of, not a picture, but shows our debt, that we're down now to 13.9, and we owe another 2.8 this year, which some of that we've already paid, probably all of it, I think. But cash position, there's a lot of numbers there, but basically the bottom line is our spendable cash. When I'm talking spendable cash, we have all of those items in blue are really non-spendable for us because they're like
Blue didn't come
the
through.
bond account, that's not our money to spend. Liquid fuels account, they, the state controls what we spend on that on. So from December of 17, we came down about $1 million in our cash position. And then at June, compared to June of 18, we're down about $1 million. So we're still very, very stable in our cash outlook, but it's less than it was last year. Budget update. I put this in here because we had talked so much last year also about the mercantile and business privilege tax audits, and just to see, so you can see where we're at. We're a little under budget, but you have to keep in mind that this is only year-to-date actual, so we'll probably be over budget on those areas also. Budgeted revenues have remained constant. Minor things that we've done, we've sold vehicles that we no longer use. That gave us about $63,000. Our interest earnings, Tim and I took some time last year and decided how to move some money so that we're earning better interest, and as a result, we're 118% of budgeted interest so far this year. Expenditures are I got to say, the whole municipality is about 50% of where they should be. Of their budget, which is where they should be at the end of June. And there's our little cartoon ending, and that's all I have.
Just to make a comment with council in the public.
I'm not going to sing it.
And I've mentioned before, staff's in the process right now of putting together a new 5-year capital improvement program, and hopefully we'll get at least a semblance of that to council, before the end of the year. But as I've always done, and council knows, our fund balance is good, it's very good. But I always put a but there, is, as Josie pointed out here, where this time last year, June 30th, we're $1 million less than we were. Fund balances can erode very quickly. And as a capital improvement program will show that there's a lot of capital items that we have to start planning for. We need a new roof on this building, and there's a lot of other, and we talk about the roads consistently. So we're good, and I'm thankful for that, but we also have some work to do with respect to planning this out on how we are going to, spend that money on the things we do need in this municipality. Infrastructure needs, and vehicles, paying down the debt, which is what we're doing, and we'll have that paid off if we don't float it in more bonds, which is what I recommend. We'll have that paid down in 2024. So it's just it's good, but it's also a word of caution because of the expenses that are out there. So,
Very good. Josie, great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josie.